No.
Okay, first of all, just like to say, Jimmy Kimmel is a horrible person. He has parents do things
I saw the
elder
video.
kids.
That's so messed up.
Why don't we save this for the pod? Why are you?
know how-
Are you recording already?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh.
he
You
is.
know how.
I thought the video was hilarious.
Oh no, it's hilarious. But you know how
But I would
traumatized
never do that to my
those kids
kid.
are like. I can never trust my parents now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At that age, I
You
understand.
know what the funny thing
if
is?
you do
When
that
I
to
saw
a-
this whole thing, I just thought the selfishness of kids. That's
Oh.
what came to my mind.
I agree, but
And when I
Wait
saw
a
the
minute.
end ones, and they were like, "That's okay, mommy. We can share."
Those
I
were
was
the
like,
most
"Those are
heartbreaking
children
ones.
that would make Jesus happy."
But did you hear that one little kid who she was so upset and she was like, I spent 2 hours walking around this block getting candy and now it's all gone. And she was so upset. She had a right to be upset.
But
2 hours is a long time.
Yeah, it is. But here's the thing that gets me again. Children are selfish.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Well, you know,
going to
the
break
one
they're going to
little-
be
the one
selfish.
little- the one
That's
little-
great that they were like that because that shows that their parents taught them. But you know how traumatizing that is for the parents to be like, "Oh, just kidding. I took the thing that you think is important and
Yeah.
I ate it."
Yeah.
Because I don't.
You know which
Like,
one was
that's
my
real.
favorite? The one of the toddler boy that just dropped. He was like, and then he fell.
Oh, that's the new one. Yeah, the new
Yeah.
one. The older one. The first time he did it, they the best line from that was like, "I ate it." What? He goes, "I'm just kidding." He goes, "Oh, "You sneaky mom."
Anyway, that's funny.
is
That's good
hilarious.
stuff.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again. This is the Red Letter Roundtable. We start every single episode with Ruth laughing. I think
I think every
the
episode
third
that
one.
has begun on this program has begun with someone laughing.
Well, I'll
Like
try next
episode
time to
one.
cry. I can cry. You want me to cry?
I was
crying
thinking
right
of
now.
wailing in agony. But you know, episode 1, just at the moment I heard your radio voice, I laughed.
The radio voice.
Yes.
That's what Steven calls it, though.
Steven is not here
He
tonight.
is not here, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Yet again.
We want to welcome you once again to our Red Letter Roundtable. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We've been getting some followers on Facebook recently, and I am really glad. I want to give a shout out in case my cousin Erica hears this. I hope her and Matthias.
How many likes do we have?
Enjoy
We
it.
have about like 100.
We have like 100 something likes. Like
Yeah.
that.
That's phenomenal.
To me,
It's powerful.
that's like.
That's
It was
phenomenal.
happy. It's like
That's
so
phenomenal
cute.
considering we sent the page to more than 1,000 people.
Hey,
Hey, we got 1%.
no.
A 1% over a 1%
10%.
a 10%. You're right.
It's actually 14. If you think about it, 140 something.
Yeah.
It's like 14%.
Yeah.
And I'm not even that good at math, and I know
Yeah.
that,
Look at that. I
Marcus.
said 1%.
Congratulations.
Can you believe
Anyway.
that? I'm horrible.
So the last couple episodes we've been talking about
Non-congratulations,
kind of a walk with Jesus, experiencing Jesus, and it's been interesting. It's been
Yeah.
a really fun to hear the discussion, what's going on. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Tony Nobley. In case you all don't know yet, I am.
Yeah, because you know, there's always the one odd
there's
guy
always the one odd.
who starts to listen to the podcast, you know, like in episode 5 and has no idea who we are. So.
I'm not gonna lie. I think most people do that.
Okay.
Like I'm not gonna.
So
I think
most
I'm
people
one
are
of
odd.
the, like yeah. Like I'm. One
I do
of,
the same thing because you know what? Usually the earlier stuff is like lame, so you usually go for the late. Like I don't watch the early episodes of what's that show? Oh boy, it just slipped my mind.
Who's lying?
No. Top Gear. Because the quality is so bad.
Stop.
I
Just
watched
stop talking
from
right now.
season
No.
10
No.
on.
I
It's
refuse to
good.
accept anything you just said. Top Gear.
No.
It's
From
pretty
season
legit.
10 on, it's awesome. Anything before, it
We're
wasn't
gonna
even
agree-
that funny.
We're gonna agree
season
to
one.
disagree. We're gonna agree.
We're gonna agree
Okay,
to
you're talking
disagree.
about the American one or the British one?
Oh, the British one.
British
I-
one.
The
No, the
American one
is.
no,
Thank you.
no,
No.
yes.
High five.
We agree on that.
I like the British one.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
very
funny one. Yeah.
Well, it is the 5th of November as we record this, ladies and gentlemen. So some of you might know what that is. Just to prove once again how not legit Marcus Torres is, he has no clue what it is.
I know what it is.
So for those of you who
The 5th of November
Don't
is
know.
the American version of Cinco de Mayo.
no.
Okay.
No. This is Guy Fawkes Day. Guy Fawkes was a terrorist in England in the really, really early 1700s.
And he's cool because?
Basically, he believed in anarchy. Now,
Right.
what's cool is not necessarily about him. There's a really cool British holiday where they take out an effigy of him and beat it with sticks and burn it. But that's not actually what's cool. A few years ago, in the 80s, came this concept of anarchy versus a government that tries to control you. It was this concept, especially during the 80s during Iran-Contra, that a lot of people felt very deeply. So Frank Miller, along with a few other people, I'm sorry, not Frank Miller, I'm not thinking of his name. Anyway,
This explanation
quite
is
a few of
taking
these
entirely
guys
too long. What is
got together
5th of
and
November?
wrote, hold on, they wrote a comic called V for Vendetta. And
Okay.
V for Vendetta explores the idea that the governments should not be feared by the people, but that people should fear their governments. And that anarchy every once in a while is good to remind us that
You just said what? You said the governments should not be feared by the people, but the
Government-
people should fear the government.
No.
That's the same thing.
governments should
Not
not be feared by
feared.
their people. They should fear the
Oh,
people.
they should fear the
Yes,
people. Okay, so now
government
you
should fear
okay,
the
now that
people.
makes sense. How about no fear? How about nobody fears anybody?
He's just
The
explaining to
idea
you the
behind it,
concept of
Oh,
the
okay.
idea
benefit.
behind it is that anarchy is good every once in a while because it reminds us that we should be in charge of our own destiny.
True.
And it explores kind of if a fascist government took over England.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great. I think it's really important to,
V for Vendetta.
because for me, it reminds me that I don't belong to any earthly government, and I need to keep any earthly government in check.
That's right.
It can't get too big. It can't get too powerful because, and I'm not making a political statement as much as I'm just saying any government that begins to take control and
Well,
really dominate
But
people.
we're not for anarchy either. So.
Yeah.
I'm
I think
not
this is
gonna go
just,
that far.
I think.
But it's a really fun holiday.
Tony is just an
gotta
eccentric
watch the video.
man with lots of eccentric ideas, and we're gonna leave it at that.
Anyway,
Anyway,
will you
so
introduce
you just-
yourself?
It's just really fun. I'm Tony, theology and anarchy major. I mean archaeology major.
Archaeology, yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
It's all in good fun. Archaeology major. A lot of fun. Really enjoying being on this podcast, and it's been an absolute blessing for me. Keep moving over.
My name is Ruth Bonet,
She's the one
that
who
has
laughs.
been said that I always smile and laugh.
She's the Hispanic with the French last name.
I'm the Hispanic with the Italian last name.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Anyway.
This is just interesting.
Apparently,
What? It's
I
cool.
have to probably come in the next time either crying or upset or something.
Yeah, because it's
You
just.
just do like
to
opera.
prove different. I can come in with an operatic voice, I guess you can say. Just bust in. I had to sing for my music class today anyways and
Wow.
memorized hymn, so
Oh yeah, that was the
I had
music
to
in the
go
Christian church.
all opera
Music
there.
in the Christian church.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that class until
Cover
the
with
last
his
month.
life. What happened in the last month?
The last month is basically just a poop session on contemporary Christian music. And while I absolutely adore the
Are we allowed
teacher,
to say poop on the internet?
I think the teacher is an
Do we have to pay
amazing
royalty
guy.
for that?
I think the teacher's an amazing
Someone
guy. I
somewhere
think he's
just won 5
brilliant.
cents.
I enjoyed dialoguing with him, but I thought rather the whole class is about appreciating music, the history of music in the Christian church. Until you get to contemporary stuff, we're not going to appreciate that. We're just going to criticize it, and that I didn't like.
See, I
that.
feel
Anyways,
like people are stuck in the 90s with that because, like, you listen to some of the Christian music today and it's so scriptural, man.
yeah.
What joy.
But this is a
song.
topic for a different pod.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, yes.
So-
I'm Ruth.
Yes,
So
Ruth. Nice to
Marcos
meet
will
you.
now go on
Yes.
and talk
Who was
about
no longer sick? You were sick
His-
last episode.
I am no longer sick. My voice is back, which is
Very
good,
grateful for
which
that.
is awesome.
So tell
I'm
us
very
about
grateful
your
for that.
poop session about that.
That was something else. My name is Marcos Torres. I am from the greatest state in America, New Jersey.
You can't even pronounce an Italian last name.
What Italian last name?
His.
Annabelle.
Anyways,
Okay.
go on.
Anyways,
Moving on.
moving on. So yeah, and I am just I'm glad that I no longer have a sore voice, and I'm just, you know what? Seriously, guys, I am sick and tired of college.
I hear you.
I just want it to end.
Me
I'm
too.
tired of being broke
Senior
all the time with
It's
2
rough.
kids and a wife.
It's
I'm
rough.
tired of having stuff to do all the time.
So you're
I'm
saying-
tired of reading books. I'm tired of studying. I
Of
don't
writing
want,
papers.
Writing paper. I'm tired of the whole thing. I'm just, I love Southern. It was a huge dream to come here, and I'm enjoying every moment of it. But I'm a senior now. I got 1 more semester to go, and I'm done. The novelty has worn off. It took 3.5 years to wear off. It's worn off. I'm ready to go. I'm 27 years old. I need to get a job and start
He had
making
a
some
poop
money.
session. He had a poop session.
That is my complaint for the evening. There. Moving on.
Go. But
What
we,
next?
we can all agree with that. We're all on the same
I
boat.
got senioritis my junior year. Is that bad?
No, because
You know
I
what
was
it
in the
is,
same
man?
boat.
I
was in the
like
same
I
boat.
don't have time for anything. Like my house is a
hear you,
mess.
I hear
My
you.
wife is studying too, so like the house is a mess.
And
there's
she's studying with 2 kids, man. Like,
well, one of them goes to
Andy's a
school
strong
now,
woman.
thankfully. Over $2,000 later. But hey, whatever.
You know how many times I've dropped to only $7 in my account?
You know how many times I've gone
You know what,
negative
though?
in the last 4 years?
For reals, though.
Negativo,
For reals,
dude.
though, man. Like this is such a cool time because
Yeah.
as one of my hardest years ever, my pastor came up and was like, man, we can't grow in times of decadence. That's a big word.
Yeah, throw your thing in. We haven't explained the rules yet.
Haven't explained the rules, but
Decadence. What in the world does that mean?
He said it though, so I was quoting.
I want you to use a word that has one syllable that means the same
We
thing.
can't learn lessons in easy times.
Marcos can't count past 1.
He said.
I'm sorry.
He said we only learn in tough times. So he said we're not
true.
disciplined enough to be able to learn anymore. We can't grow with God during
true.
easy times. We just coast. It naturally
coast.
happens.
It's natural,
He says
for
it's
sure.
only when tough times come that you learn to trust, you learn faith, and you grow.
And I just being in a place like this is a blessing.
Yeah,
It's a blessing.
absolutely.
And I hate to break it to you, Marcus, but you're going to be a pastor, so you're going to be broke for the rest of your life, son.
Hey, what can you do? I'm not gonna be as broke as I am now.
No, that's
I make
true. That's true.
I make
That's true. There are
I
different
make
That's
less than $10,000 a year now, and I have a wife and 2 kids. I am below the poverty line. That's horrible.
Super below the poverty.
are the 99%.
I am the 99%.
I'll be making those little snarks.
Although I was
all
not
night.
a big fan of the Occupy movement.
I
thought
wasn't
it was
either,
ridiculous.
because they all had iPhones while they were doing it. So it's like, we're just like the 1930s. I'm going to tweet this. It's such a deep... Guys, Instagram selfie. Occupy.
You gotta do the duck lips.
You
Like,
gotta love
for
the
reals.
21st century. I love the century we live in. Quite honestly, I love the
Someone
50s.
says that.
When I look at movies from like the 50s and stuff, and I'm like, man, it would have been great to live back then. Only I remember I'm Puerto Rican.
Yeah, you're a
so
minority,
I
yeah,
would
no.
have I
Oh,
would
you
not
know,
have enjoyed my time in the
You would have hated America.
Yes, but
Yep.
you know what? Like the days that we live in today, they're cool. Like it's so cool
for real,
to
man.
like social media. I just love it. Anyways,
People
we're
ask
taking
about
too
that.
long. We
We are
haven't
taking
even
too long.
introduced the program.
People ask, like, what time would you like to live in history? It's like, dude, I love running water and bathrooms that are.
Although it would have been
decently clean.
awesome to be a knight for like King Arthur.
See, again, running water, toilets that somewhat work. Like,
And,
that.
and women that smell good. Because
I could not take
That
the
shave.
armpit hair. I got spoiled.
Yeah,
All right.
that's-
So
Okay,
program today.
program.
So tonight, yeah, you know
we
what?
have,
Tonight, yeah,
well, let's find
I'm
the
just gonna
rules.
introduce this really quickly because actually Ruth is gonna launch it off later on. But basically,
We do the rules.
we're just gonna be talking. We're gonna have a theme tonight, following just kind of the themes that we've been talking about over the last few pods. We've just kind of been building from scratch. And by the way, I want to say this. We haven't said this before, and I think it's important that we say this: that Red Letter Roundtable is not about bringing an end to the conversation. That's
right.
It's about starting the conversation. So none of these pods are intended to put a cap on an issue. This is just to get conversations started. We share our thoughts here.
Or to even give the
and-
right answer.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
when Jordan was our guest a few weeks ago. Like he said, I'm still working on it. I'm still
Yeah.
walking through it. And it's
Yeah.
like, man, that's the best answer we could have gotten.
Absolutely, man. So, we invite people, we invite you, the listeners, to listen in, but we also invite you to write us on Facebook. We invite you to on our website, on the contact me section, up in on the top left. Right tab, depending on which way you're looking at it. If you're behind the monitor, it's on the left. If
Or
you're in front of the
upside
monitor, it's on the
down.
right. Yeah, we're not going to go to the upside down. That's just going to get too confusing. But this is about starting the conversation. It's not about ending it. So feel free, to give us your thoughts and ideas, and to say, hey, I'd like you guys to revisit this or whatever. That's totally cool. But today we're going to be talking mostly about the problem of hypocrisy. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So, anyways, rules. Tony, take them away.
Okay, so we have the chair of shame. We each
Where
have,
is it?
3. It's the one over there.
It has to face the corner. It has to face the wall.
Marcus is gonna go.
Put it in the corner.
I'm gonna pull like a radio. Marcus is turning the chair. He's turning it. Marcus, how do you feel?
Oh my
He
goodness.
slammed the wall.
Marcus,
I just put a hole in the wall.
Marcus just put a hole in the drywall.
And what I'm gonna do to
That
make
will
this
be
more
placed on
shameful
your
is we're
tuition.
gonna put
Marcus
the
has
trash in
become more broke.
there. All right. It's that there's no hole in the wall. It's a ding. What are you gonna do about it? You know.
Okay. This is like they can use this against us now. We'll have to like restart
It's
this
a
completely.
ding on the wall. Are they gonna
We
like
have
literally
3
tear it out and put
No.
new drywall back there because there's a little ding on there?
We have
Give
3
me a break.
personal items each. We're gonna put these items on the table. Whenever we use, we can use a shoe. Just we'll use like a shoe.
No, do not take your shoe off, please.
I've got your. I will
Do your
give.
feet stink?
I will give. No, I'm actually using a powder now.
Now.
What is it that has what inspired you to start using a powder now?
It's a kind of embarrassing story.
Okay, we're not. Gonna,
Okay, rules of the game.
Let's
we
let's
haven't even
just say-
started yet,
let's
guys.
just
We're
say
like 15 minutes in.
Dude, like we can
Get to the program.
We can edit that out in post.
All right, so I'm going to offer up my Department of Veterans Affairs ID card, my car keys, and this also includes a Western Sizzlin' $5 off 25 purchase or more.
Okay, that's good.
And
Going a little strong there, huh?
I gotta find something else because
Here, you can use
Your
here,
wallet?
I've got
well, I mean the ID card was kind of in the wallet.
his phone is shot, everyone. So
Here it is. It's my laptop bag. There. All right, moving on.
that works. I'm gonna use. Okay, so
You
I
know
have
what?
my
Our track
my
record is not even
charger.
any good. No one has ended up in the chair of shame yet. I think we're gonna have to start
Yeah.
changing the game.
We will.
Okay.
So I've got my
That means we're
iPod
doing what we're
that was given to me
supposed
by
to
my
do.
boss.
you're right.
Jeez.
The
Headphones.
headphones and then my phone charger.
Ruth, what do you have there?
Tony gave me his camera and his jump drive,
Oh, so these are actually Tony's belongings.
and I have my phone.
Where's your boyfriend? Maybe you can
I don't know.
offer him on the table.
He disappeared. I'm not gonna put him
No.
on the table.
Okay. Well, that's an
Figuratively or
honorable
literally?
What does that even mean?
Okay.
thing. Yeah. We're confused.
So the
Let's
plan is
introduce
if
our
you
guest.
use 3 words that are. You have 3 shots to use a word that is either really, really complicated or apparently really long. You have to use words that make sense. So something that is theologically disparatable, we're not allowed to use words like that. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about the real topic. Ruth, I believe we have kind of a letter that we kind of want to talk about that kind of spurred.
We're gonna
this
come into
idea.
that later.
Are we coming to that later? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get this started off.
When we were talking earlier, Ruth had mentioned you had mentioned the kind of like the progression that we've been following and
Right.
what that leads people to. So I wanted to just kind of let you put the whole thing on the table, and then we'll start picking it out.
Okay. Well, when we first started this podcast, we came in from the angle of,
The relevancy of Jesus.
thank you.
Yeah.
It blinked.
It's okay. I got
the
you.
relevancy
That's
of
what I'm here
Jesus.
for.
We started off from there. Then from there we went over to tackling about skepticism, and we looked then between faith and reason. And we kind of went on and dealt with experiencing Jesus and how that looked like, and perhaps the Damascus Road experiences and stuff. And so now we're finally at the position of where, okay, you're willing to try the God thing out. You're willing to try the Jesus scenario. But now you're coming into the position of having to grapple with the church family. And what do you do with that? How do you integrate? What happens when things rub you the wrong way, or you rub someone the wrong way? You could be completely new to this, or you can be on the other side where you've grown up in the church and probably have become desensitized to Christ, and then you're coming back to God, and you're saying, Lord, I want to be sensitive to you, but I'm still having an issue about the church. And so and and you're tired of the scandals, you're tired of the dirty, nasty stuff that happens underneath the table, or how people then perhaps give you dirty looks, or whatever the case may be. And so the thing is that how do you come into terms with that? And what is it that is required of you as a Christian? Or do you have to offer anything to begin with?
And that's a really big elephant in the room, because I think everybody recognizes that there's a problem with church. And a friend of mine was recently telling me that he was watching a documentary where this guy went around America and asked people randomly, when I say Jesus, what comes to your mind? All kinds of people, they would say, kind, merciful, humble, loving, all these different characteristics. And when this same guy went to the same people and said, okay, what do you think of when I say Christians? And now these same people were saying hateful, judgmental, rude, bigoted, all these different things. So I think that's a really good thing to grapple with, because when somebody decides, hey, I'm going to give Jesus a shot for the first time, or I'm going to give him another shot, you're like, but that means I have to go to church, man. And how do I grapple with that? How do I wrestle with that? Anybody? I mean, let's set the stage a little bit. I mean, Tony, do you have any experiences that you would share that would lend to this concept of church being this nightmarish experience?
Do I have any?
Yes, any story whatsoever.
Just pick one.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just pick one.
Just pick one. Okay, I'm going through the 23 years of dealing with people in the church. My dad was a pastor, so I'll just throw that out there. I was a homeschooled PK, so I saw the dirty, seedy underbelly of the church so much. It got to me to the point I did not want to be a pastor. And people don't understand this. I tell people, I'm not worried about getting a call to a church or getting picked up by a church, because I didn't want to do this. I really didn't want to do this. God made me do this. And when I say he made me, we talked about that previous thing. He called me to it, and I love it, and I know I'm born for it. But this was not my choice. This was him calling me. So I've seen so many dirty, seedy underbelly things. I think the closest one was one that really just took my church down. We had a small church where I lived, about 80-something people. And it had been dealing with a lot of problems, internal struggles. People just, different cultures. It was a multicultural church. We had a bunch of different people from literally different countries come in, and with kind of their families. And so we struggled kind of finding an identity as a church. And then the head elder, or the leader of the church, his middle daughter, his first daughter had kind of gone off with her boyfriend, done her own thing, and it was kind of something we didn't really talk about. It was a bit of an issue, though, because according to the beliefs of our church, he really shouldn't have been a leader of a church until he kind of got that in order. But people said, well, she's an adult and she's doing her own thing. But then his middle daughter, who was still in the house, ended up pregnant out of wedlock. And half of the church, they literally split the church. Half the church was like, stone her! And the other half, I take that back. Half the church didn't know how to react. Mm-hmm. They just kind of were like, oh! It was so shocking. And then the other half was like, oh my gosh, this is great. They threw a rave in her honor, basically. It was just everyone's just partying, just so happy. And we're like, okay. Essentially, it was statutory rape because she was underage and the father was not, so she can never, ever reveal who the father is. Mm-hmm. The baby was clearly not going to be well done for because her family was in shambles. And I mean in shambles. And I love them very much. It was bottom on my heart, and if they ever hear this, I want them to know that I continue to love them. Mm-hmm. But it was just kind of a wreck. You could see it. And the way that everyone reacted to it just it was just really, really hard to see. And it literally split the church. And it wasn't her fault in a sense that, she didn't plan on this, but it did. And just watching people react to it, I was so hurt by it because she was such a close friend of mine that I reacted horribly. And I kind of was like, how could she do this? She betrayed us all. And finally got to the point that my dad looked at me and was kind of like, Tony, you need to look in the mirror. She did. My mom was nicer about it. She was
Good dad.
She didn't do this to hurt you. She wasn't sitting there, how can I ruin Tony's life? I know. I'll get knocked up.
Statutory rape.
Yeah, like, she didn't do that. She didn't do that.
Not at all. Not at all.
But my dad, he was a little harsher. He was like, you need to start looking in the mirror before you start casting stones, buddy. You better start putting that down. Referencing, of course, the Bible story in John. And in John 8. And I was like, dang, and I looked at that, and God really, really said, a great quote from John Wesley, and I've said before, but for the grace of God, there go I. There are times in my life where I was dangerously close to having a problem. And as it turned out, later on, I ended up making mistakes with a girlfriend of mine that I could have been in that same situation. And definitely not proud of it. Definitely something that, made me realize how hard it had to be for her. That public shame that came on her. And so there was a huge balance between the doctrine truth of, hey, you have sinned, and this idea of, oh, well, we're just going to love you. And some people were like, how can you just love it, man? It's not the kid's fault. It's not really her fault. Her family was a mess. And it was like, no, man. She consciously made this decision. So I think that was the hardest one for me, where I just really felt this swirling hypocrisy and double standards in the church, and it got ugly.
Yeah. Well, the biggest one for me, and I saw all tons of them. I mean, people mistreated, all kinds of stuff. Young people, especially. I could just tell stories, but the one that was most personal, because it happened to me, was myself and two other guys in my church enlisted in the military. I joined the Army with my one of my best friends, Mervin Leonore. Shout out to Mervin if he hears this. Cool guy. He's still in the Army, actually. He's a recruiter now. And so we both joined the Army together, and then another friend of ours, Christian, shout out to him too, he joined the Marine Corps. And there were some people in the church who had the personal conviction that if you were in the military, that you should be erased from church membership because it was a sin to be in the military. And the pastor was one of them. And boy, it was just horrendous, dude. Like, it split the church in half. There were fights and arguments and all kinds of stuff, and they had meeting after meeting, and they wanted to erase us. They wanted to put us on discipline, on church censorship, and is what they wanted to do. And so, that whole situation just was like horrible. I mean, it went on for weeks, and my mother, to this day, she still gets jittery when she thinks about it, because she's the kind of lady who's like, I don't care what you say or do to me, but if you mess with my kids, I'm gonna turn into a viper.
Like most mothers would.
Like most mothers would, absolutely.
Mothers,
yeah. And so, I was 17 at the time. And my brother had already joined the Army a year or two before, and they dragged him into this mess too. And he was just kind of like, whatever, But yeah, it was just horrible, man. And like so many people that I thought were really, really good friends, I got to see them stab people in the back. I got to see them do things and say things that were so cruel and so mean. Yeah. All because
people
they had.
You wouldn't even imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely, man.
This rage coming out of them.
And so finally, they had this meeting. The church leadership got involved and said, hey, you guys can't do that. They're free to join the military if they want. You can't erase them from church and blah, blah, blah. So they had this big meeting, and it was and two things came out of that, good and a bad. The good thing was that some of the people involved realized that they were wrong, and they actually came and apologized to us. One of them was even crying. He came and apologized to us and hugged us and stuff. And that same afternoon, after this whole meeting had transpired and they had decided this was the wrong course and stuff, I was walking, and I walked right by the pastor. He didn't even look at me, didn't say anything. He just kept walking, and it was a crazy experience. I'll never forget it. It was wild. Ruth?
Well, I was caught in the middle of a situation myself, and because
it don't be mean.
Thanks. Because it happened to my family. My parents had gotten a divorce, and at that time, we were at a Spanish church. A Hispanic church, and if any of you know anything about Hispanic churches,
did I happen to mention I grew up in one?
I grew up in one too.
Same here. I grew up in many churches.
Me too. They're very generous people, but man, are they gossipers. And they smile you while stabbing you in the back sometimes. And so the thing is that here's this church. and I think I'm about 6 years old or whatever the case may be. My parents were having a horrible marriage for the longest time. For a while I would, me being 4 or 5 years old, and I would recognize that mom and dad are not okay. It's like, why does mom eyes don't shine when she talk about my dad, or vice versa? So I myself have recognized as a very young age that things between mom and dad were not that great. But somehow they were able to manage being married with each other for about 16 years. But finally, because of some other scenarios and issues that happened, my mother was the one who called for the divorce. And the church took the stance that divorce is not biblical, which I agree with that. Divorce is not biblical. And Jesus has very strong words in regards about divorce and remarrying. And anyway, it's not the topic of this podcast, but the reality is that you can't escape what Jesus himself said about these things in the book of Matthew. And so anyways, because the church was trying to be sensitive to what Jesus said, then they put my mother through a process of, they disfellowshipped my mom, and then they put my father on probation. And
really quickly, explain just in like a sentence or two what disfellowship means.
Disfellowship means that you're taking away the membership of the church. You're no longer considered a member of the church anymore. In other words, then you were being cut off from having fellowship with these people.
So for us, it means you can't vote. You can't. It's not like we don't believe in like a communion deal where you can't.
Yeah, you can't hold an office in the church. You can't lead things. You can't
go up front. But
you can't go up front.
You still receive forgiveness from sins.
Right.
Okay. Just for those of us.
And then the difference about probation is that you go through a small time of limited or restricted activity in the church. You're still a member of the church, but your activity is limited. And because my mother was the one who placed the divorce, she was the one who got disfellowshipped. And so anyways, it was this big hoo-ha. The funny thing is that not only was my mother going through the divorce, but 4 other people in that church was going through the divorce, 3 of them also being my family members. And essentially, when I walked in through the doors of my church, people will be whispering, people will be talking, and I would come in labeled with the status of my parents. And I had no control over that. I had no control.
You're just a 6-year-old kid.
I'm just a 6-year-old kid. I couldn't do anything about it. And people casted down an eye on you because they are married with their parents. They have parents that are married. Or husbands and wives will look at my parents and they would say, we're still married. Now mind you, they weren't happy, but they were still married. And that gave them
hypocrisy only goes so far.
They only they felt that gave them a form of an air of superiority, where they thought that because they were still married.
Are we saying that's a big word?
Is that a big word?
Air of superiority?
I think we're okay.
Let's just do it. Just do it. I want somebody to go to the church saying.
Oh, this is my first one, guys.
Ever.
But anyway, so I was caught in that position, and that's where me and my 2 younger sisters, and then after that just came the mess of always, saying, I'm from a divorced family, and this church was just a mess. And eventually it led my mom to leave the church. Like, she went to another church because we moved away from the area to begin with, and my father eventually left that church as well. And to this day, we really don't have contact with these people.
Yeah.
There's not...
Probably a good thing.
There's not a lot of... I still have some family members that are there, and obviously we keep contact with my family members because they're family and we love them and we have good relationships, but overall as a church family, there's not a lot of contact. There really isn't. And and it was... The church was just split. It was like, no, she should be kept, and no, she shouldn't be, and it was just a mess.
Wow, man, that's rough stuff. I had to throw this one in there. This isn't a personal experience, but I just had to throw it in there as we move forward because this one just irks me so much. just breaks my heart so much that I just wanted to put it on the table for the discussion. There's a Spanish evangelist. I'm sure you guys have heard of Alejandro Bullón. Very popular Spanish evangelist, and he's retired now. But he tells a story in one of his sermons where he went to preach at a church, and he was just coming for one night, and the church handed out flyers all over the city. These really beautiful flyers that said something to the effect of, if you feel alone and broken and there's no one that cares for you, come tonight, because there is, there is a friend who loves you. And so people are coming, to the meeting, and the pastor gets there. He gets there a little early. He's sitting at the front in the pews, and all of a sudden he hears a commotion in the back, and he's wondering what in the world is the commotion. So he goes back there, and he sees the elder. I don't remember if it was an elder or a deacon. Let's just say elder for the sake of the story. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. He sees the elder standing at the door to the church, blocking the door, because this prostitute wanted to come in.
Wow.
And she had been working the streets,
Wow.
and she's looking at this man, and she's telling him, you don't understand. I got the flyer. I have it right here. She pulled it out. She showed it to him. I'm accepting your invitation. I'm coming. I want to hear the program tonight. And he said, no, you're not coming into God's house dressed like that. This is God's house. You can go home and change and come back. And she tells him, I live far away. I don't have time to go home and come back. I just want to come in. And he refused. So she cursed him out and walked away. And
I
the
would probably
pastor,
curse him out too.
Ironically, that's actually biblical.
It
I actually know that.
You
It actually
could.
says, shake the dust off your feet and...
and so she
Testimony
walks
against them.
away, and
Sorry,
the
I'm
pastor,
really moved. That's a-
Pastor Bullón he freaks. I mean, he's just like, I can't believe this just happened. So he chases her. He catches her maybe 50 meters away from the church. He finally catches up to her, and he said when he caught up to her, she was crying,
Poor thing.
just bawling. And he tried to convince her. He said, listen, he said, please forgive us. Like, I'm so sorry. And I give him kudos for taking blame himself instead of just, playing the blame game. He said, please forgive us. I'm so sorry. Please come, and he tried to convince her. He said, you'll be my guest of honor. I'll give you the best seat and everything. But she was done. She was done. And he said he got up to preach that night. And this is the part that hits me as a preacher. He got up to preach that night, and he looked out into the audience, and he saw well-dressed, good people who pay their taxes and have a career sitting in the pews who come to church every weekend. And he said he just had this knot in his stomach, because he was like, what if God sent me here to reach that one person? And as I heard that story, I kind of pictured, when you ever hear those stories of when someone is performing in a play, and like they keep looking out through the curtains to see if like their mom and dad are in the audience and stuff. Like, I just pictured Jesus looking through the curtains of the church, like, is she here yet? You know what I mean? Like, and she wasn't. Why? Because someone thought it was a good idea to defend God's holiness and say, no, you can't come in here like that. And that just really breaks my heart, and we see these, like, this isn't the only story. There's so many stories like this, so many
exactly
stories like this, where we as a church, we fail time and time again.
And this is the thing. It's like, it's the reality of the church, and this is where we're at. And even though we're claiming to follow God, the reality is that when you claim to follow God, and when you come into the picture to accept to enter into a church community, this is the type of stuff that you're gonna have to deal with.
Yes.
And
There
you
is
have
gossip
to,
in the church.
and you have to bite the bullet.
There's
have
a
to
lot of
bite the
ugliness.
bullet.
Here's the
Absolutely.
thing. Here's what's interesting. Jesus went out to hang out with the prostitutes. Jesus would never have been in that church having that evangelistic series.
Jesus went out there.
Jesus went out and had in the street.
Yeah.
Now, do I think it's helpful to use that? Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's much better in a building. You have better acoustics, everything like that. It's much more practical. But, man, Jesus dealt with people so well. I mean, you look at him. He takes the Westboro Baptist Church and he says, you hypocrites, look at the log in your own eye. But then he says to them, I love you. I want you to be saved. It's just like that rich young ruler, man. He says, hey, it says he loved him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing we don't understand about Jesus. He was so loving
Yeah.
that he went to those people, his own people, who rejected him, and he was like, it doesn't matter, I'm still going to love you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, I'm
That's
still going to love
that's
you.
so cool, man. Like he was
Went
just
up,
a
they
crazy
kicked
lover.
him out. They
Jesus
kicked him
just
out
a
of the
crazy
church.
lover,
They tried
bro.
to stone him, and he said, I don't care, I love you.
Yeah. Crazy lover. That's just insane.
That's how we need to react.
Yeah.
When we go to a church, we first of all, we need
Well,
to think of churches.
before you get there,
Sorry, go
because
ahead. Go ahead.
you're getting ahead here. You're getting ahead.
I'm getting ahead.
I want to bring up just a few questions, and you know what? We're kind of running out of time here. We may actually
Yeah,
have
we
to do
are.
a part 2 on this.
Probably.
What do you think? You think we'll have to do a part 2 on
We'll
this?
do a part 2. We'll do this, and then we'll split it off, and we'll do part 2.
Well,
So just
we'll have to
record
do
it once and then.
we'll have to do a part 2 next week, man. I gotta go home.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you know what? Next week is our last recording for the semester, and this is a great
It'd
topic.
be a good topic to go number 2.
to go number 2 on.
Yeah.
So, so we'll split it into 2 parts. And by the way, if you do not know who the Westboro Baptist Church is, you who are listening, Google it and be prepared.
If you
to be
don't
shocked.
know, please don't be offended, but get out from under the rock you're living in. They are everywhere. They're literally everywhere.
They are the example of everything Jesus did not want the church to become. But they are not the only example of everything Jesus
Oh,
did not want the
absolutely
church
not.
to become. Many of us fall into that same category. But
That's right.
but let's not go off on rabbit trails. Let me just go ahead and let me ask some questions. Let me ask some practical questions here. I
Where
am.
did my object go?
Where did your object
sorry,
go? Your
I'm
object
playing-
has been taken.
I'm playing with. I need.
I'm gonna purposefully
Here,
use
just-
some
just
huge
play with
theological words,
Okay.
just so that I can end up in the
Let's
chair
go.
of shame.
Let's go.
That's horrible.
Say I am a secular person. No, secular.
Yeah, dang.
Come
it.
on, secular,
I had my
come
finger
on.
on the trigger, man.
Say I'm a secular person, and
Trigger.
or I'm a guy who went to church or a gal who went to church, got burnt out on religion, said, you know what, I ain't doing this no more. It's too strict. It's too ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. You can't do anything. Everything is a sin. Blah 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 blah. I'm out of here. I'm gonna just go enjoy my life. And then somewhere along the way, I hear Red Letter Roundtable talking about how cool Jesus is, and I decide, hey, you know what? I'm gonna give Jesus another try. But there's this church thing that we've been talking about that I just don't want to be bothered with. And so what can I do? What are my options? And this is something that we're going to have to finish up talking about next week. But I just wanted to bring up 2 questions. Two
Yeah,
questions.
yeah,
And we'll
yeah.
close with these 2 questions, and then we'll pick it up again next week, and then we'll actually give some resolutions. Again, this isn't to close the conversation, this is to open it. We'll give some resolutions from our own experiences, because we have to wrestle with this too. But, okay, so I come into the, I want to give Jesus a chance again. I realize that, he's awesome. I realize that he wants a relationship with me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give Jesus a try. But I don't want to deal with church. And so I just look at myself and I say, you know what? I don't need church. I'm talking to you, Tony, right now. You and I are talking. I'm talking to you, and I'm saying, listen,
Yeah.
Tony, I don't need church, man. I'm a spiritual person. What in the world do I even need church for? Like, it's so much drama. What do I need it for?
Man, that's.
That's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. And
Go, Tony, go.
It's hard to answer because it comes from so many different
I agree.
backgrounds
No,
and angles.
and-
But let's just for the sake of conversation.
Here's why you need church, man. Jesus said,
First of all, what is church?
Well, let's define that. I was actually going to go there. Church, by the definition of what it is, and especially if you go back to the Greek word, it means a group of people. It's very clear. I mean, it's not even.
It's an assembly.
It's
Yeah.
not even like
It comes from a Greek-
controversy or whatever. It comes
biblical
from a
Greek
Greek
word.
word. It means literally a group of people. So a church is a group of people who meet in a building and have a certain set of common beliefs that they hold together. Sometimes not even that much.
So is the church not necessarily the building?
So the church isn't the building, and it's not the organization, it's the people.
People.
It's the
I mean, you
people.
have people in Africa walking across fields for miles to meet under a certain tree because that's the halfway point for everybody.
Yeah. And that's church.
And that's church.
Yeah.
That is church. So first of all, church is people.
It's community.
It's a community of people. Okay? Secondly, why you need church. Because we are created to be social beings. Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I will be also. And he actually said, there I am. Which is a great present statement. Can I I'm going to put something in there just because. Present.
Present? Are you serious?
Oh, fine, I'm
This is
trying.
horrible. At least say something like, eschatology, soteriology. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Because I've only got one thing left to throw in.
We need people around us, man. People make us stronger. Iron sharpens iron. Okay?
But you know what? But I get that, But I'm a spiritual person. Like, I got this cool connection with God, just me and Him.
See,
So.
yes, you're right. But the point of Christianity is not to get close with God. The point is to let Him take over your life and to share Him with other people. God isn't your best friend. He's your Savior and He's your Creator. He is your Lord. And in that, He can become your best friend, but He's not your buddy. And that's something that you need to keep in mind. He is my best friend. I guarantee you that. But He is everything. My priority list doesn't start with God. God is above that.
Yeah.
And then comes blankety, 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 blank. Okay?
Deep.
So that's why you need church, because it's not just about you. It's about sharing God with other people. It's about bringing that light to the world. Remember we talked about light last week, man. Jesus came into the world to show us the character of God. And if we don't show that with people, shame on us. Shame on us. Okay, now, not that I'm throwing out shame if you don't share that. I'm saying for myself if I don't share that. Now,
Looks like somebody.
here's why you need church. Because God can work through you to change the people that you're talking about. Because when you let Him take control, He's going to put you in a place where He wants you to change the people that need to hear about Him. And they might be in a church. They might be on a corner selling drugs. They might be in the bars. Wherever they are, God's going to put you where He needs to be talked about, to be shared.
Yeah.
That's why you need a church, because you bring those people somewhere into a loving, important community. And man, there is nothing like feeling you belong.
Right.
That's right. And
That's right.
I love what you're saying there. I'm going to piggyback off of that, and then we're going to give some closing thoughts. We're going to give the closing thoughts to Ruth. I said Ruth.
Yeah, they did that to me in middle school. They did that to me. Oh my goodness. Jeez.
Anyways, yeah, because we
What's the
got
other thing I get a lot?
Do I have to pay royalties for that?
Probably.
Yeah. Anyways, I love what you're saying, because
What
when
was
you think
Boaz
about
without
it,
his wife?
Yeah.
Ruthless. Do you know how many times I've heard that?
that is so cheesy. Anyways, it's a good one. It's funny. It's a funny one. Cheesy jokes have a way of being dangerous. When I was a kid, I was eating a Laffy Taffy.
Now we're going back.
Sorry.
Hey, I'm okay with this.
We're talking about our childhood now. Childhood traumas. And Laffy Taffies, I don't know if they still sell them, but they would come with these corny, really corny
Yeah,
jokes.
Yeah,
no,
corny
they
jokes,
still,
They
they
still
still
sell them.
do.
Still do.
With the corny jokes.
And I was eating one time with a
Wax,
friend
dude.
of mine, and he
wax.
read. So I'm eating a Laffy Taffy, and he's reading the joke from his Laffy Taffy, and it was so corny that I literally swallowed my Laffy Taffy. It got, because I was laughing because it was so corny. It got stuck in my throat, and I was literally like choking to death.
Okay.
And my friend would not pat my back because there were these 2 cute girls walking by, and he didn't want to, like
Oh no.
look like an idiot. So
Oh,
he
no.
waited till they walked by me.
Meanwhile, you're turning like purple.
And then he took his book bag off and just like slammed my back with it, and the Laffy Taffy came out. But would you like to hear the joke that almost killed me?
That is so messed
I don't.
I'm just gonna move on.
Once again, Ruth's laughing.
Cliffhanger.
Next week.
So
Next
here's
week.
the thing. The joke was extremely corny. It was not
Next
even
week.
funny.
Save it for next week.
Yeah.
We'll have to remember it.
But I love what you were saying, because when you think about it, life without community is horrible. Now, some people say, "Oh, but I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert," and I have to use those words because there's just no other word for them. But an extrovert is a person who recharges while he's around people. An introvert is a person who recharges many people.
Yeah.
An introvert is a person who recharges on their own,
Or
or around a few people.
Small.
But there's a difference between being an extrovert and an introvert.
Yes, there is. Yep.
And being, and being
Isolation.
anti-social.
An
Totally
isolationist.
different. An isolationist. Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah, you got another item on the table. Anyways, but the thing is, God created us to be in community. He created
Yes,
us
he did.
to be with
That's right.
people. People who drink, they go to bars and drink. People who like to run go do these huge marathons and they run with tons of people and their friends. Whatever hobby you're into, there's a club for it. If you like to read books, there's a book for it. If you're a fan of C.S. Lewis, there's a C.S. Lewis fan club.
They have an app for
anything. They have an app for that. Yeah,
Yep.
anything, dude. Like look at how popular social media is today. People want to stay connected. People want relationships.
Even if it's fake.
Even if it's fake, dude, people are just craving relationship. People are craving connection because that's how God made us. So how can we say I'm gonna follow God, but I'm just gonna do it on my own in a little corner somewhere? It doesn't really work. It's just. I mean, yeah, maybe you can be like some monk off in a hill somewhere, meditating by yourself until you die. But it's in being in community with people. And this is the thing. True. I heard somebody say this before. I don't remember who it was. And then we got to give the closing thoughts to Ruth. But whatever you have in mind, keep it for next week.
I got to remind me about that point.
Okay. But I heard somebody say one time that true godliness is not seen when we're off by ourselves in a corner. True godliness is seen in the way we relate with other people. And it's by being in community with other people that we are really able to experience God. And so anyways, we're going to continue the discussion. We're just getting it started here. We ran out of time, but we're going to continue next week. We're going to have a part 2 to this whole discussion of why people wrestle with church or to struggle with being a part of church and all the stuff that comes along with that. But Ruth, you have some closing thoughts for us?
I guess I do.
Right on. Closing thoughts without going into next week's discussion, I guess, is the challenge.
No, and I guess, closing off, in regards to why do people, why do we need to go to church, and the comment was said about the importance of community. Mm-hmm. The aspect of community is this. When you're going through something extremely difficult because of your beliefs, because of your value system, because of what you believe to be true, how you model your entire lifestyle, and what is your worldview, and how you make your decisions. Not everybody thinks like you, not everybody talks and walks like you, and so when you gather together with the people who agree with a lot of the same things that you do, it is refreshing, and it is rejuvenating, and it gives you a breath of fresh air, because then it gives you the jump to be able to turn around and go back and deal with a world that is hostile to God. And so even though the church has its struggles, and even though the church has its frustrations, and everything is not perfect in the church, the reality is that we need to be not so shocked about the fact that sinners sin. And if church is the hospital, then be prepared to find sinning sinners. I mean, it's the logic of what comes in what we believe in. And so what this is going to require a lot of patience, a lot of submission towards God, and challenging yourself. Because in the end, if you're asking for a higher standard of things to be done, that means that God has given you a better light of what needs to be done. And if you walk away from that, then in the end, you're no better than the people that you're accusing. And so the reason why church is needed is because of the fact it keeps us humble. And it keeps us aware of the fact that you and I are on the same boat. And the reason why you and I are together in this place is because we're worshiping the God that both you and I agree to can fix the problems that you both and I see that we have, and that I can see that you have, and that you see that I have. I mean, in the end, it doesn't do us any good if we just keep pointing out things if we're not willing to recognize that church is the place to fix it. And so, and then from there we're gonna jump off to next week. And so I guess from this on we'll let you guys chew on that, mentally massacate. There you go.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah.
We're all in.
on the things that
we
we
should
just
all go to the chair of shame
on
together.
the things that we just no, I have one more.
Me too.
So do I.
On the things that we just finished talking about, but that is the truth. And I guess you can see that a common theme that we finished talking about overall, and this is what we'll go over in next week, is you have people acting a certain way, but then you have the standard of truth. And so then what do you do when the acting doesn't meet the standard? And what do you do when you're in that need, when you're in the need of not acting that certain standard because you're stuck somewhere? What do you do with that? Does that mean that you close the door of a cold church and go to another denomination or something else so that your needs can be felt and met? Or are you going to be in a position willing to see what it is that God wants to do for you at that moment in regards to your connection with the community that you have pledged to be with?
Good stuff, man. Really good stuff. And yes,
Really deep.
very deep.
Dang.
Very deep. We're gonna I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to go to chair shame.
Man,
we're gonna chew on that.
It's
But
amazing.
yeah, let's go ahead and close it out for tonight. Once again, any questions, comments, or whatever,
Please.
just Facebook.
Hit us
Want to
up.
hear from you.
Red Letter Roundtable on Facebook. We have a Red Letter Roundtable YouTube. We have a Red Letter Roundtable WordPress. So just hit us up, man. Let us know what's up.
I will make a pledge for every person that at least puts down the word "yo." I will give a shout out to in next week's episode. True story.
Nice.
True story.
Yes.
So the
But
next
by the
time-
way, it's also important to recognize that by the time all of these episodes are up, we're going to be off air for the rest of the semester. We'll keep kicking back up in June.
January.
In January, I'm sorry,
Not
not June.
June.
Wow.
June is
January,
summertime.
yeah.
Nobody's
and
gonna
then
be here
and
in
then
June.
we'll be launching out for next semester. But we actually don't have any material for next semester. We're open to any suggestions that anyone has. You guys want to talk about. So, anyways, let's go ahead and pray. Close it out for tonight. And Tony, lead us out.
God, we've come up with some really interesting topics that we talked about tonight. It's important for us to realize that there are going to be negative experiences that we have when we're dealing with people. We're broken. We're all broken people. God, we are made from material that just it's not whole anymore. We need you to make us whole. So remind us that even though people might look at us differently and people might mess up, that you never judge us based on things we can't control. You don't look at us and see broken people. You look at us and see beautiful creations because we're your children. Remind us of that. We ask as we go through this week, you will continue to be with us and bless us and give us a renewed sense of who you are. We ask this because of your name and because of what you have done and what you have promised. Amen.
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 Amen. Awesome.
I'm going to play one clip.
What?
I'm going to play one clip really quick so we can hear it.
What are you playing?
You'll see. You gotta hear this.
Is this happening?
Oh, remember the 5th of November.
The gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
That sounds like the most psycho movie of all time.
Do